Hello, Garland, Nixon, and the U.S. empire is screwed, blued, and tattooed. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here, and let's talk about the situation that we find ourselves in the middle. We weren't in the middle. We got to be in the middle. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. I get get a lot of compliments on the thumbnails, but I think that's pretty much it. You can see it. It's the old adage: be careful what you pray for. You might just get it. And Netanyahu is like, for 40 years, man, 40 years. I've been praying every day. One of these old days, I'm going to get my hands on Iran. Yeah, you got your hands on Iran. You know, the what's the other metaphor? The Chihuahua chasing a tractor trailer, and then at some point you catch the tractor trailer, and then what? They caught a tractor trailer. They have made a strategic blunder of biblical proportions. And I think biblical proportions is an apt analogy simply because they're in the Holy Land. And this is a war this is a religious war to some point. You know, Pete Hegseth has these like literal crusader tattoos on him. And I think there's a lot of symbolism here that is not without merit. Because this is the Crusades part two. You know, this is, you've got people in the military now like, this is Donald Trump was sent here by God to bring back Jesus. You know, people don't believe this crap. And that stuff will get you an ass kicking. That's what it'll get you. Running around with this hubris. So now America, according to these people, is the hand of God. And I always wondered about stuff like that. You know, if you're a religious person and you're like, God needs me to do this. And I'm thinking, well, if you really believe God's all that powerful, why would he need you? If you truly believe that God created the entire universe and you are in the context of the universe, you are a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth the size of an atom. And that isn't even the trillionth to the 1 trillionth power the size of an atom. But yet you believe that the guy who did that's like, yeah, how am I going to get this accomplished? What are you thinking? I don't know. I could use my might to create the entire universe. Nah, that'll never work. I think we'll use Donald Trump. You got to be a brainwashed idiot to believe that. But that's what brainwashed idiots believe. And that's how you get where we are today at the end of an empire. We're at a place where inevitably where empires get. Isn't it interesting that we've been told recently that the average life of an empire is 250 years? And what birthday are we coming up with the U.S. empire? Oh, yeah, our 250th. Right on time. Almost like clockwork, right? Almost like clockwork. It's almost like the leaders of the U.S. empire were like, hey, we only got a couple more months left to screw this thing up. I think we got to get busy. And they're getting busy, right? So where are we? Let's talk about the level of catastrophic decisions that have been made and the outcomes. Here's the big one right now. I think this is a big one, and tell me if you agree in the chat. Numero uno. They're lying about the casualties. They're lying about the hits. They're lying about the ships. They're like, yes, they're doing it in Israel, right? Because what happens to Israel? Israel goes and they attack someone and they lose like 1,000 soldiers. And they're like, you're like, hey, what kind of casualties have you taken? And Israel's like, well, one guy has a hangnail and somebody twisted their ankle. That's pretty much it. Nobody's injured, right? And in a fascist environment like Israel, you know, it's fairly obvious now that we're looking at a bunch of religious kooks. Realistically, I mean, religious kooks. You know, remember this, the Taliban, they're religious crazies. The Taliban ain't hurt nobody. The worst that the Taliban's doing now is they are facing a British attack utilizing Pakistan. Clearly, a couple weeks ago, the Taliban said, look, if Iran is attacked, we'll join in. And what do you know? Pakistan immediately attacked. All of a sudden, there's a war between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Right after Afghanistan said, if you attack Iran, we'll join in on Iran's side. The UK, which, let's face it, who created Pakistan, who drew the borders between Pakistan and India, who keeps a war and enmity between Pakistan and India going at all times? The Brits, MI6. So the Brits are like, oh crap, Afghanistan's going to join in. Quick, grab your vassals in Pakistan and make sure that they attack Afghanistan so we can keep Afghanistan busy so they can't join in. That's what that is. But it ain't going to do them no good. They're in deep and serious, as I said yesterday, kimchi, guana, whatever you want to call it. They're up to their neck in guana. And here's the big one. Let's hit the big one. People are not talking about as a whole. They're talking about individually. They're lying about the pain that's being inflicted by Iran. Okay. Look, do you remember when the U.S. lost a war to the Houthis? That will be written about in the book, in the history books. In the history books, it will be written, they lost to the Houthis. They had 2 aircraft carriers and they ran the hell out of the Red Sea, and the Houthis beat them like a bass drum, right? So they lost a war to the Houthis with 2 aircraft carrier groups and somehow thought they were going to take out Iran. Logically speaking, I would think that they would look at a loss to the Houthis and say, well, we probably better not go after Iran. But I would be wrong, wouldn't I? Because any belief that is not founded in reason and logic will not be swayed by it. So they didn't use logic to get in this mess. It's like, you ever talk to somebody who believes something like as a matter of faith? They're like, Trump is great, he's wonderful. And you're like, let's look at the results. You just hate Trump, right? They didn't use logic and reason to come to their love for Trump or Kamala Harris or whichever one of these brainwashed cults that are masquerading as 2 parties when it's really one. They didn't use logic and reason to come to their conclusions. Therefore, you cannot use logic and reason to bring them to their senses, because there ain't no senses to bring them to, right? This likewise, if you kidnap the president of Venezuela, and then you say nobody could have done that, I think the Russians and the Chinese could have. I really think the Russians and the Chinese, nobody could have ever accomplished what we accomplished before. What did they do? They economically imprisoned Venezuela for the last 25 years or whatever it was. Economically imprisoned them for 15 years. Impoverished Venezuela to the point where they couldn't defend themselves. And then they attacked Venezuela when they were at their weakest. And then they said, look what we've done. Can you imagine if I saw some poor, guy walking down the street with one of those white canes going like that, who was blind, and limping along with a cane. And I went over and I beat him up and I said, no, the toughest man ever. Why, I defeated a mighty enemy. And everybody's like, but the guy's blind and it looks like he's limping or something. I think the guy's been hurt. And I'm the one that blinded him. I ran him over with a car 2 years ago. Ran him over with a car. He ended up blind, broken up, and in a disastrous condition. So I run him over with a car. I come back 2 years later and beat him up, and then say, "Yeah, man, I'm a badass dude. Let that little chump have it. I'm the baddest man ever. Did you see what I did to him?" That's what the U.S. did. Hubris. Pride goes before a fall, my dear and fluffy friends. And so we do that, and then we get cocky, and then we read our own headlines. You look what we did to Venezuela. No one, all shall fall before our mighty sword. And Iranians were like, dude, we don't want no trouble. Come up over in here. You're fixing to get ass whooping if you come over here. Leave us alone. We don't want no trouble. Oh, ye shall also fall before our mighty sword. And the Venezuelans, I mean, the Iranians are like, yeah, you come up over here. We're going to see who falls before a mighty sword. Leave us alone. Nobody has to get hurt. We don't want no trouble. Ha, ha, ha. Behold the power of the mighty empire. You have that working out. Okay. So now let's talk about the reality. This is not getting reported on. This is not getting discussed. Somebody's got to talk about it. Okay. Let's think about these reports. As of right now, people have said there's 4 or 6 Americans have died or something like that. That's what we're told. 6 Americans have died. Wow, that's pretty amazing, isn't it? Our bases have flattened. The Iranians have attacked all kinds of stuff, and we've only had 6 deaths. That's almost incredible. And I use the word incredible in its most literal sense, meaning not credible. Who the hell believes that? Think about this. It's, as Joe Biden would say, malarkey. So let's look at it. The Iranians have said, we hit the Abraham Lincoln we fired 4 missiles at Abraham Lincoln, we hit it, right? Okay. And the Department of Defense said, they missed, never touched us. And then the Abraham Lincoln left the room. It's, I don't know, off the coast of India somewhere. We're not really sure where. I expect they got hit. Now, let me ask you this. You think the Abraham Lincoln got hit with 1 or 2 or 3, how many ever missiles it got hit and nobody got killed and nobody got injured? I find that slightly hard to believe. I think they had losses, most likely. Maybe not, but I think they might have very well had some losses. All right, let's continue. As of now, we're reporting 4 planes down, right? 3 at one time. According to them, the Kuwaitis shot down 3 planes. Let me throw something at you for a second. The Kuwaitis accidentally friendly fire shot down 3 planes. Let me give you some numbers. Against the Houthis, the carrier group in the region said that 2 Americans died. Right, 2 Americans, like apparently Navy men, seamen, I don't know what they were, died. And here's what they said. Well, they were climbing off a boat and they were going from one boat to the other and they fell into the sea and drowned. Perhaps. Or perhaps they were in a 2-seater plane and the plane was shot down and they perished. But they admitted 2 died. Now, they said, we lost 3, remember, against the Houthis, 3 F-18s that we lost. And what did they say? Well, there was a missile coming at the aircraft carrier, and the aircraft carrier made a sudden turn, and the ship and a plane slipped over the side. Okay. And then another plane was landing, and it slipped over the side. Okay. And then a third plane slipped over the side. Well, this is weird. In the history of America, I'm not familiar with 3 planes slipping over the side. Any plane slipping over the side. In the history of aircraft carriers, when is the plane they made a sudden turn? I don't know how much you know about boating, but if my little 18-footer, I got an 18-footer with a 150 Yamaha on it, right? Nice little boat. I built it up myself. Many of you know, you're like me. I'm a middle-class guy at best. Making a few bucks off of a retired policeman's salary. Trust me, you ain't owning a yacht off of that. Trust me, I'll tell you that. But I got an old boat, put it together, rebuilt it, project boat, got a nice motor on it, 150, 2005, 150 Yamaha, rebuilt the motor, out I go. Let me tell you, that boat is a streak of lightning. And if you turn it real hard, it'll throw you overboard. Fair enough. The bigger boat you get, the longer it takes to turn, right? As an example, there's an old discussion about turning an aircraft carrier. You turn it and then you wait. And when you're running a big boat, people that run boats, no, you turn it and you wait, because you turn it and it slowly comes around. I find it hard to believe that an aircraft carrier, if you turn it, slowly comes about. If the airplane were on my 18-footer and I turned it suddenly, it'd probably go right over the side, except I can't fit an F-18 on there. If you turned it, the wheels suddenly on a nuclear carrier, it would come about so slow that you could walk back and forth across the deck. You wouldn't even almost feel it. Okay. So trust me when I tell you this, them damn planes didn't slip over the side. So what, but here's my point. We got 3 planes that slipped over the side and the Houthis said, no, they didn't. We shot them down. I believe the Houthis. Now that's 3 right there. What just happened the other day? 3 F-15s went down. And what did they say? They friendly fire. Really? Have you ever heard of IFF? Identification friend or foe? There are technological things, lack of a better term, that are procedures that are taken to ensure that you don't shoot your own planes down. And one of them is IFF. And that way your radar and your missiles and your systems can recognize, oh, that's friend, identification friend or foe. And your system actually can't shoot your own plane down because of IFF. And so they said, yes, we actually shot it down. And then I guess a lot of people were like, what about your IFF system? So then they said, oh, no, it wasn't us. It was the Kuwaitis that shot them down. I'm supposed to believe that the Kuwaitis don't have those IFF systems? Sounds like malarkey. And then the Iranians said, I know, we shot him down with an S-300. Sounds more like the truth. And the next day, which is yesterday, the Iranians said, oh, by the way, we just shot down another F-15. That's 4 F-15s in what, 4 days? We're averaging 1 a day. How long can you do that? How many F-15s do we have, by the way? If you're averaging 1 a day, here's my point. We got 4 of them shot down and probably plenty of other planes, I would bet. Okay, so we've got a carrier that I believe to be hit. The U.S. is saying it wasn't, but it's left the room. We got 4 F-15s so far shot down. We only got 6 people dead. Now, yesterday, let me find this. Yesterday, according to, let me find it. I can't find it. Anyway, according to the Iranians, they struck a destroyer 600 kilometers off the coast of Iran. According to the Iranians, the destroyer was connected up to a supply ship, and it was refueling. And they struck it with 2 missiles, and there was massive fires on both of the ships. Now, that makes sense because that's what you would do if you had really, let's say, I don't know, you had maybe either Chinese or Russian ISR. Hey, look at this. These ships are getting ready to come together. And perhaps you were tracking them both via satellite. Perhaps you were cracked into some of their communications and you found out that they were going to get together. Somebody said it was in Indian waters. I don't know. Perhaps you found out, okay, they're getting ready to resupply the ship. All right. And that's when the ship won't be able to move well. And it will be at its weakest point and most vulnerable point. And that's when we will attack. That's how strategy works. According to the Iranians, at this time, they fired 2 missiles. The 2 missiles struck the boats and both of them had massive fires. So now we've got 4 F-15s down, according to the Iranians. We admit 3. According to the Iranians, we got a carrier hit. According to the Iranians, we got a destroyer and a supply ship that is offloading fuel. Massive fires. They got problems there. Now, the Iranians also say that there was in Dubai, maybe a hotel or something. They just basically said a large gathering of 160 to 200 Marines, and that they attacked it. They saw the gathering of Marines, that they attacked this gathering with drones, and that they said somewhere between 40 and 100 Americans were killed, and it's a mass casualty event. They also said that, and the Americans have admitted that the Iranians struck a hotel. Now, again, this was a technological feat in that they apparently tracked them using either phones or whatever. You know what the U.S. always does? Ho, 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 we will track you down using your phone. We're slick using apps and all that kind of stuff. We're going to track you down using technology, and then we're going to drone you, right? We're going to drone kill somebody. Well, apparently, in the same way that the Obama team had their Tuesday morning kill meeting, well, apparently the Iranians are having a Tuesday morning kill meeting on a daily basis. So they apparently, I saw the drone. I saw, excuse me, what I believe to be. I saw the video online where there's a big hotel and on a certain floor way up there, and a drone comes in right into that room, right into the floor. Kabam, kablooey! It blew the whole floor out. I wouldn't want to have been anywhere within 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 floors of that because you're probably dead. Bottom line is, the American says we lost 2 people. They said 2 Department of War, which is really Department of Defense, 2 DOD people. Well, I find it hard to believe that there was only 2 people on that floor. The Americans probably rented out the whole floor. They probably, and the Iranians said we killed a bunch of DOD people. What they said was high-ranking military officials. Now, here's the thing to think about. I mean, just logically speaking, if they had the technology to figure out where they were, right? And let's say they were on their phone, they were, using their phones to track them, things of that nature. If they had the technological ability, maybe they got some help from Russia and China. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. From the looks of their technology, they ain't no joke. And they've been hiding stuff from the US for a long time. But whatever the case may be, don't you think if they had the technological prowess to hack into whatever they need to hack into, if they had probably the human intelligence, right? The human intel people on the ground, spies, watching where the Americans go everywhere, to say, that's who they are, that look, the Americans are going here or there. Don't you think that they knew how the hell many people were there? If they knew where they were, when they were there, that they were in that floor, when to attack it, exactly what floor it was on, don't you think they also knew exactly how many people were there? So they said they killed a number of US high-ranking military officials. I think they did. So here's my point. This is a military catastrophe, fair enough. But by the same token, the Trump administration said 6 people, right? 6 people. Right now, the Iranians are saying in the vicinity of 500 to 700. That's the numbers they have. Okay. If we split the difference and say 350, but I think it's probably over 500, then what we have is we have a Trump administration lying to the American people and everybody. The Trump administration would be far better that as the casualties, I mean, this is the option you have. As the number of casualties come out, you announce them. We lost 40 people, 50, 60, 30, whatever. It's going to be bad. There is no good way to do this. There is no easy way to do this. There is no soft landing for this. But option A is, as the people die, we admit it and say we just lost another 20 people. Our ship just got hit. This got hit. Sure, it's ugly and it's not good. But you take your medicine at the time that it happens, and people are going to go ape shit. Bananas. That's option 1. Option 2 is you lie. You know what that is? That's the scared person. Uh-oh, I better not do it. But what you're doing is you're sealing your fate, because at some point, instead of saying we lost 30 here, 40 here, 10 here, 6 here, at some point, people are going to get the real numbers. How long can you hide it? And at some point, the number's going to come out that ain't going to be pretty. What happens when you get to 1,000 and only a week is gone by? And at some point, it starts leaking out of the Pentagon, or something comes up, and somebody says to Trump, what about this video here where you said we lost 6? How did we go from 6 to 800? You know, a number somewhere between 6 and 800. Oh, you mean 600 and 800? No, I mean 6 and 800. How did you miss it by a factor of 10, right? It's just a matter of time before they have to tell the truth. And when they do, when the US has to say We lost 500 people so far, 600, 800. See, let me tell you, as a person who used to do sales, and I'm sure there's some salesmen in the crowd. When I did sales, I was a good salesman. I understood people. I understood numbers. I used to read a lot of books on the human brain. I understood how the human brain works, right? Here's what you do. I'm selling something and I say, look, back then it would be something like this. You know, I was cameras and technology stuff, security for buildings and all that stuff, cameras and key card entries and all of that kind of things, right? And if I said, look, let's say I knew it was going to be $5,000 installation and then $88 a month for us to maintain that, $150 a month, right? I'd look at it and I'd come in like this. Well, it looks like we're going to be about $9,500 for installation, and it looks like we're going to be about $220 a month. People go, that's kind of tough. I'll call you back. Believe it or not, sometimes people would call back and say, okay, I'll take it. Now, I could do it for $5,000 and $180. Instead, I started off with $9,500 and $220. Yeah. Then they call back. Well, what can we do with that? Well, let me talk to my manager. You know, you bull crap people and you come back and say, we can get it down to 8 and we'll do $200 a month. You know, and if I tell you what we'll do, I talked to my manager on the phone. He said, if you sign today, we can do $7,500 and we'll do $195 a month for the maintenance for your whole system. A lot of time they take that. It was way over what I actually could sell it for, right? Because the numbers, when you start with 95, 75. Now, if I start at 10,000, everything goes, and at some point I get to this. It's the end of the month and we need a deal. And my manager said, normally we won't do this. We'll lose money on this, but we got to get our bonuses up. So my manager says, he'll give you 50% off. He says, if you take this, we'll do 5,000. Instead of 10, 5,000 installation. And we'll do 185 a month. I still could do it for 180. I still got $5 more a month to go. And they go, oh, really? 50% off? Look, don't tell people what you paid. Don't get it out there because everybody's going to want that price and we can't do it. Now they would do it. That's all I was going to sell it for. But why? Because the way it works, if you give somebody high numbers to start off with, the low sounds like whatever you give them sounds low. If you give them low numbers, if I had started and said 3,000 a month and tried to work up to 5, they would never take it because 5 would sound high. Why do I say that? The way the human brain works, when you say 6 people died, people are like, wow, 6, that's a lot. But when that turns into 600, people are going to be like, oh, it would be better to give them the numbers as they go along. In fact, it would be better to say we had lost 100 people and people go bananas and come back and say, good news. We've recalculated the numbers. We've only lost 40. That's what I would do. And people go, oh my God, thanks. We only lost 40. Woo, boy, are we lucky. But when you say 6, and it's actually 600, they're going to go nuclear. They're going to go, what's going to happen to MAGA? You told people, I will not do this. And lo and behold, you did far worse than they could have ever imagined. And now you got planes down, you got ships hit, you got your entire infrastructure in the region getting peppered. You have now the Trump is going around begging, hey, can we use your bases? India says, I guess, okay. Oh, by the way, Spain, we need to use your bases too. Spain's like, now you can't use. Trump, he goes berserk. And Trump literally says, this is to show you, Europe and the Chihuahuas. What does Trump say? Think about what he said. Spain says, nope, you can't use my bases. And Trump says, well, if we wanted, we could. We just fly in and use them anyway. In other words, what did his name say? Stephen Miller say, we'll do it because we can and you can't stop us. They literally, Trump said, we can do anything we want. Spain, we can use your bases if we want. You can't stop us. I bet you won't shoot at us. We'll bomb you. We'll kill you. We'll go to war with you, Spain. They have this creature. The U.S. empire has no friends. It has no allies. You will do what I say or else. It's always been like that, but Trump is the personification of this policy. So where we have now is we have a catastrophe. We have a disaster of biblical proportions, and Trump is begging, going around the world hand in hand, please let me use your bases because ours are empty. Ours are loaded with Iranian rounds. They're pockmarked. They look like moonscapes. They're done and they ain't coming back. And when we call Iran, they're saying 2 or 3 weeks. Yes, do we expect this to last 2 or 3 weeks? Well, we'll be out of interceptor missiles, air defense missiles in one. Better hope the hell it don't last 2. Oh, by the way, when you say to Iranians, all right, it's been 3 weeks. Yeah. Hey, Iran, it's been 3 weeks. Can you call it off? Iran's going to say, I don't think you understand what's going on here. You threatened my life. You tried to kill me. You killed the Ayatollah. Nah, let's keep doing this. No, we ain't doing this. They're going to call Iran at some point, and Iran's going to say no. And what happens if they threaten nukes? Iran's already said, so use them. You got nukes, and you're going to threaten us with nukes? Let's see what happens if you use them. Because America already knows if they use nukes, it's over for the U.S. empire. It's over to hell. But if they use nukes, we'll become a pariah state. If they come nukes, there could be fallout across the Gulf. What you're looking at that point right now, Iran, you've threatened to kill them. There are no red lines. They have no reason to negotiate. They have no reason to do anything but continue to fire. If you threaten you're going to kill me and I'm in a corner, if I got a gun, if I got a knife, a baseball bat, if I can break a bottle and cut you with that bottle, anything I can do, I shall do. I don't care. Threaten me. You've already told me you're going to kill me. We'll use nukes. Well, I'll be just as dead if you use nukes or you don't use nukes. Either way. So guess what? Right? Smoke them if you got them, as they say. But you go too, because you know what? Then I'm going to use my nuclear option. If you do that, adios, all oil infrastructure. That's it for you. That's it for the entire Western economy. So if you use nukes, I'm going to smoke your. I'm going to. At that point, the oil coming out of the Gulf right now, it's temporarily stopped. You use a nuke. It's gone for decades. So how long is it going to take you to rebuild that stuff? Because I'm going to destroy every pipeline. I'm going to all of the Saudi and Kuwaiti and UAE and all of that stuff, all of their oil infrastructure will be vaporized. At that point, what's America going to do? You're going to have starvation in America. You're going to have all those beautiful cars and trucks you have. Good luck with them because they'll be sitting still. Oh, by the way, the military that uses more oil than anyone in the world, good luck finding it. Your military. By the way, is the stock market at 50,000? No, it ain't. It's at 50. So if you decide that you can't take it and you're flipped out to the point where you're going to use weapons of mass destruction, and then your argument was, we had to stop them from getting nukes because they may one day get nukes. And what'd you do? We use nukes. So the U.S. and Israel will be put in that position. And if they decide to do something stupid, well, then that's it for the U.S. empire. As it is, if you recall a couple weeks ago, and I've said it on several occasions, I said, if they attack Iran, that's the end of the U.S. empire. Because what is an empire? An empire is a narrative, really, right? It is, we have 900 bases and we can do whatever we want. And so people are afraid. You better do what we want, country X. And country X says, well, that's the empire. And it's so powerful. If we don't, they'll kill us or beat us up. It's the bully on the playground that pushes kids and says, give me your lunch money. And the kid handles his lunch money because he's afraid. And nobody will fight back. But what happens when the kids are no longer afraid? He says, give me your lunch money. The kid says, nope. Well, I'll beat you up and take it. And the kid says, you're going to have to beat me up and take it. Okay, let's just say he beats him up and take it. Now you give me your lunch money. And the kid says, nope. You have to beat me up and take it. And the kid fights him with everything he got. And the kid loses, but he fights him with everything he got. Then the next kid, he fights him with everything he got. Now that bully that was taking 10 kids' lunch money every day now has to come in and he has to get in 10 fights. And every one of those kids bites him, scratches him, kicks him in the groin, scratches him in the eyes, throws dirt in his face. And then what happens? 3 of the kids jump on him and they say, we may be littler than you, but we got 3. And they all jump on him and they fight him and he fights like hell. How long is the bully going to be able to keep taking money? See, as long as there's a narrative and people are afraid of the bully, he gets it. He don't have to fight. But now they say, if you get that money, you're going to have to take it and you're going to have to take it honest. And you're going to come in here and fight every day. Let's do it. So the empire is a narrative in which people are afraid and they do what the empire says. But what happens when people say, we will fight you and we will fight you together? Every day. So if you're going to maintain domination, you're going to have to fight for this domination, because what happened in Ukraine? Russia started it. The U.S. said, and the empire said, we're coming to Ukraine and we're moving in Ukraine. And Russia said, no, can't do it. They said, yeah, we are. We're not listening to you. See, the beginning of the end for the empire was when Russia said, we'd like to talk to you about Ukraine. We have some issues we'd like to talk about. And what did the empire say? Two things. Head of NATO, you don't get a say. Tony Blinken, that's not even a start. That was the end of the empire. Why? Because as long as the narrative of empire intimidated people and they said, you don't get a say, and people were like, okay, I don't get a say. Okay, the empire works. But the day Russia said, well, okay, here's the deal. You can stay in Ukraine as long as you want, but you're going to have to fight to stay there. Now you have to extend resources. Now the aura, the narrative of invincibility. And what happened? They went in and the Russians blew their stuff to hell. And now the aura of invincibility runs up against Iskander missiles, runs up against Russians' ability to fight. And everybody looks at it and they're like, holy crap, your air defenses are weak and all the stuff that you have isn't as good as you said it was. You're exposed. Now, what happened? That happened in Ukraine. Then the U.S. says to Iran, do what we want. And Iran says, well, first of all, you're getting your ass kicked in Ukraine. But the answer is no. Yes. No. If you don't, we'll kick your butt. Okay, well, you're trying to kick Russia's butt. You ain't have much luck over there. So, all right, let's do this. That's what Iran said. Let's do this. You want to fight? We've been preparing for this for 20 years. So the narrative that the U.S. is dominant, and the narrative got to their head. Then they went and then they kidnapped the leader of Venezuela. Look at this. We kidnapped Venezuela. We did regime change. They didn't really do regime change. They kidnapped one guy. Trust me. You watch. You fought. You all those who believe that Venezuela has been taken and it's a total vassal state. You watch. That ain't the case. But people aren't going to believe it. At some point, people will say, you know, I think you were right on this one, Garland. Anyway, so they kidnapped one guy, and then they said, look how tough we are. Now they're still losing to Russia. Now, let's go one further. You take on Iran, but you didn't just take on Iran. Because the Russians and the Chinese said, we got your back. Remember, when the U.S. took on Ukraine, China said, took on Russia, China said to Russia, we got your back. So Russia says, we can handle it militarily, but economically, our power is, limited. China said, don't worry about it. We got nothing but economic power. We'll buy your oil. We'll buy everything. We'll make sure you got the money. And I'm sure most likely they're probably helping them, with some of the electronics that they need, things like that. And then North Korea just flat out and says, we're in. We hate these sons of bitches. You need some people? There's nothing we would love better than to fight the evil empire. Please, please, let us get a couple mitts on these people. And they say, all right, come on and fight a curse. And the North Koreans come in and say, that's all we've been waiting for, the opportunity to get a couple shots at these people. They send their people in, the North Koreans fight. Now, you come after Iran, they have learned the game. The Russians are like, okay, we're going to get in here. We're going to help them with some air defense. We're going to help them with some electronic warfare. Oh, by the way, between us and the Iranians, we're going to target everything. That's why I said the French are sending in their aircraft carrier. Bad move, France. You only got one carrier group. And when it gets you can rest every night knowing that the Chinese and the Russians, they got eyes in the sky on that British ship that's heading over there, on that French ship that's heading over there. They got eyes in the sky. And the second they get in range, guess what? The Iranians are going to open up on them with missiles, with anti-shipping missiles. Oh, that's coming. That's coming. The Iranians are going to open up on them. That's for sure. So guess what? NATO ain't had enough in Ukraine. It's another NATO war. Just think about it. I mean, the Brits are sending something. I think the Germans are involved. The Brits already have planes over there. Now they're going to send a ship to get sunk. You know that the French are in there. They're going to send us up. So the combined might of NATO has fought Russia, and they're getting their butt stomped into the ground. Now the combined might of NATO, what's left, the poor, scraggly, ragged little scraps left of NATO are going to go over to Iran. They ain't had enough. They haven't had enough. Now they're going to get a foot in their behind over there too. They want to lose 2 wars on 2 fronts. They're going to do that for sure. This is it. This is it for the U.S. empire. This is it for NATO. I'll put it like this. Ukraine was critical because it demilitarized NATO. It took a lot of their resources, really demilitarized them. Now they're going over to, they want a piece of Iran. And they're going to go against Iran after the Russians have demilitarized them, after the Al-Aqsa flood and the resistance forces in occupied Palestine have demilitarized them. This is front 3, demilitarized there, demilitarized here. But what else happened? In America, the people in America started saying, hey, what's going on? I think you killed Charlie Kirk. And what's this Erica Kirk woman? She seems almost suspicious, almost like an Israeli Mossad kind of spy. We don't know for sure, but something seems suspicious. Why is she always crying and rubbing her eyes and there's no tears? We're suspicious, right? The Epstein files come out. And in America, what Netanyahu referred to as the 8th front. We got 7 fronts. And the 8th front is your little brain, that little gray matter between your ears. And so Americans were like, we don't like this. You're buying up everything. And you got ZBS, which used to be CBS, and now Paramount. You're buying all of this stuff and you're threatening us. You can't say anything disagreeable in the United States about Zionism, or you'll be deported, called an anti-Semite, and now our First Amendment rights have been thrown out the window for Zionism. That ain't going over real well. And now you've attacked Iran, and you're losing that war 3 days in. And Donald Trump is going around the world, hat in hand, begging for a place to park his planes because he can't park them anywhere near Iran. This is a political catastrophe of epic proportions. Now, what about the issue of economics? If you've heard my the other thing politically, the other thing is the Gulf states. They're deep in serious trouble. And if this thing keeps going, they're going to start falling. Bahrain clearly is in deep trouble. And once one falls, I think they'll fall. They'll go down like dominoes. And I think they're screaming. They're like, you're killing us, bro. You're killing us. You got to end this thing. And Iran's going to be like, no, we're not going along with that. But the thing about it is the Gulf states are falling. They'll be begging. It ain't going to do no good. They're all on the phone calling Putin. Oh, please, these crazy bastards are going to get us. We're going to lose all of our power. Yeah, you kind of really are. I don't see a way out for you, the Gulf states. So we'll see what happens there. But I think if the Gulf states fall, then the resistance forces are, what's interesting? Think about this. Part of this was to control the oil, right? We're going to control Iran's oil. And then we're going to say, China, you can't get any of Iran's oil. And then we're going to cut off all the oil to China. If the resistance forces overthrow, say, Bahrain, the resistance forces right now, resistance to the U.S. empire, are controlling the oil clearly because they're shutting down the Red Sea and they're shutting down the Straits of Hormuz. So they're controlling the oil. And my understanding is they're saying ships can come out of Chinese ships for oil. They'll allow Chinese and Russian ships to go through, but nobody else, right? Maybe if North Korea needs or whatever, right? And they may even bargain with countries, right, to let something go through or not to let something go eventually. But you went in there to shut China's oil spigot off, and your oil spigot got shut off. And as for Europe, well, and I don't want to oversay this too many times because you probably heard it. I don't want to sound like a guy with blisters on my tongue for saying the same thing, but the Gulf states thought they were, you know what they thought? They thought the U.S. had multiple wives. Israel's a wife, and these Gulf states, that they're both wives of the empire. Because in a country or in a society that allows multiple wives, like I've been told anyway, that how many wives can a man have? As many as he can support, and he has to support them all the same, all that kind of stuff, right? So they thought based on their culture, that there was multiple wives. I'm sorry. No. Israel's the wife. Gulf states, you're just a side chick. That's all you are. You're a side chick. And you know what happens? A snowstorm comes, and the side chick says, "Are you going to come over and shovel my snow?" And the U.S. says, "No, we got a wife, and so we're going to be home shoveling her snow. You're on your own." Now, what is Ukraine? Ukraine ain't even a side chick. Ukraine is now. You know what they're finding out? That they're a $50 hooker who has a drug addiction problem and VD. And some venereal disease. That's all they are. They're a diseased, drug-addicted hooker. They ain't even a side chick. And this diseased, drug-addicted, crack-addicted, heroin-addicted hooker, when it comes down to it, just face it, you gave the guy a venereal disease. He don't ever want to see you again. Trump's calling this guy P.T. Barnum. That's all you are. You've got the wife. You got the side chick, that's the Gulf states. Israel's the wife, the side chick is the Gulf states, and a diseased, drug-addicted, crack hooker. That's you, Zelensky. So you are. Cheap $50 hooker, $25 hooker, streetwalker. That's what you are. Put on a mini skirt, Zelensky. Walk up and down the street with a mini skirt. Hey, mister. You looking for some company tonight? That's what you need to do. Zelensky, call Trump and ask him, is he looking for some company tonight? Trump, don't do it. She's got venereal disease. Pock marks all on her arm from injecting heroin. You don't want any of that. Don't do it. You. And Trump said it. Zelensky's P.T. Barnum. You know what he said? Ew, I'll never touch that again. Last time I touched that, I had to take penicillin for a month. That's what you are. Somebody said, that's funny. He says, a dime bag hooker. That's all Ukraine is. They're a dime bag hooker. They never want to see you again. And you know who's next? Europe. Europe was like, we must stand with Ukraine forever, as long as it takes. And now they're like, hey, man, they cut off your gas. They cut off your oil. Oh, by the way, when the people of Europe wake up and find out what happened, they're going to cut off your heads. There's a history of that in Europe. By the way, they know how to sharpen up the old guillotines. They're sharpening them up in Europe. And they think it's bad. Now, you ain't seen nothing in Europe. They're going to wake up and say, oh, our industry shut down. Everything's collapsed. What? Wait, what? Who? Oh, by the way, I think Ukraine's due to run out of money in what? April or so? What happened to that $90 billion that was supposed to be borrowed to keep Ukraine going? First of all, what was that $90 billion for? $90 billion, $40 billion of it was going to be to pay back the old loans. The other $50 billion would be to buy new weapons. Oh, wait a minute. To buy new what? Here's a term that you might have heard from your Economics 101 class. Scarcity. Market scarcity. You know, when I started college, my first major, Integral Community College, which I ended up teaching eventually, but my first major was business management, right? And I had some minor economics classes, and I found out about market scarcity. You know what's going to happen? I don't care if the Europeans came up with 50, 100, 1,000, million, $1 trillion. Let's say, but all of a sudden they hit a gold mine. Oh my God, $50 trillion. Boom. Here you go, Ukraine. Here's $50 trillion to buy weapons with. Market scarcity. Ukraine then calls the United States. Hey, good news. We got money and we want to buy interceptor missiles from you. What do you think the U.S. would say? Sure. No. They'd say, dude, we're almost out of interceptor missiles, but we got money to buy them. Well, good luck. I hope you find somewhere to buy them, but we're out. Buy them, sell them to you. We're out. We're skinned. We got nothing. Market scarcity. At this point, think about this. Ukraine's going to run out of money, but even if they didn't run out of money, and even if Europe wasn't going broke to hell and going to run out of gas, Thank you for the Nord Stream pipeline bombing. Thank you, USA, right? Radikov Sikorsky. Thank you, USA. Even if they had the money, when they called the US, nobody's going to answer. The US, there you go, P.T. Barnum. There you go, $50 dime bag, venereal diseased, drug addicted hooker. Call them. They got nothing for you. There's nothing for Ukraine. No, I'm sorry. What are you going to say? We're not giving up an inch of ground to the Russians. Let's see how that works out for you in the next 6 months when you're out of money and you're out of weapons. You're out of time. You're out of luck. It's over. What are you going to defend Odessa? You'll defend nothing. They will turn and run for their lives. Oh, by the way, remember this? There's going to be a decision that's going to have to be made because at some point, the Russians will be winning and they'll be ready to take Odessa. They'll be ready to take this and take that and take Sumi, Humi, Boomy, whatever the hell. And then the US and NATO will have to make a decision whether they're going to come in. I don't think anybody's afraid of the US and NATO coming in right now. If you think the Iranians made mincemeat out of the Americans with their surface-to-surface missiles, what do you think would happen with the Russians? What do you think? The Russians are making what, 1,000 of the geraniums a day? What do you think? How many missiles do you think they got stocked up? Oreshniks, Iskanders, you name it. What do you think is going to happen if the Americans and the Europeans say, you're not going to take Odessa, we're coming in? First of all, the American people go, oh, the hell you aren't going into another war. That's number one. Number two, coming in with what? We're out of weapons. And last but not least, the Russians will say, you think the Iranians turned your ass into mulch with surface-to-surface missiles. You ain't seen nothing yet. It's no longer an option in any way, shape, or form. No more, yes, we must have a freeze along the lines and then send in a force of peacekeeping troops. That bullshit is out the window. So right now, if I were, oh, by the way, remember when all the Zionists in Kiev, Mendich and these guys all stole money and then they ran to Israel? Trust me, Israel ain't in a safe haven anymore. I would not. Oh, by the way, I don't think the airport is open, so you can't fly in. And if you did, you'd die. You'd fly in and die in and straight out of the Holy Land. So the whole Ukraine stuff is lost. And you don't even have a narrative anymore. And if you're a European leader, you're saying to yourself, the Straits of Hormuz are closed. The Red Sea's closed. We're going to get no oil, get no gas. By the way, Qatar, which is like the #1 provider of gas in the world, somewhere up there with Russia, which you cut off, Qatar's like, we got to shut down our whole gas thing. They shut down. They ain't providing no gas. And I think part of that is probably strategic. If you want the truth, they're probably like, you got to end this thing. We're shutting down the gas. That'll make them end it faster. They got to get out of here by the end of the week. They got to get out of here. They got to end this war. Problem. And I just say this from a self-defense stuff. Hey, Garland, I'm going to kick your ass. Hey, man, I don't want no trouble. I'm going to beat you to death. I don't want no trouble. I got this knife. I'm going to stab you with it. Dude, please. I don't want no trouble. You back me in a corner and you attack me. And I start fighting. Now, at this point, I got nothing to lose. I'm fighting for my life. And I start getting the best of you. And you say, oh, you know what, Garland? I was a little out of line with that business about beating you to death. You know, old pal, remember the old days when we used to hang out at the basketball court, drink cold brews, smoke weed when we were in high school, and remember that? Chase girls when we were in college, all that stuff. You know, let's put this business behind us about beating people to death. Who even does that anymore? Let's just be friends. Perhaps we should end this fight. What do you think Garland's going to say? Yeah, no, you told me you were going to kill me and you attacked me. And now I got the better of you. I'm going to beat your ass to a pulp. This is the Thunderdome, brother. 2 men enter, 1 man leave. You already told me that the way this fight ended was only one of us was going to leave. I know that. I'm getting the best of you. I think it's going to be me. And there's nothing you can say, because you know what? You told me you're going to kill me. If I let you walk away, when you'll come back to kill me tomorrow. You've done it before. The last time you told me, just let me go and I'll leave you alone, and I'll let you go, you came back to kill me again. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm killing you now. Oh, yeah, well, I'll pull out a gun. You better pull that son of a bitch out, because if you ain't got it, I'm killing you. And if I get hit and I survive, I'm killing you because you tried to kill me. This is about survival, brother. That's what we've done. It is a political, economic, and military blunder. Don't cover it. Catastrophe. Absolute catastrophe. It is what I said a couple weeks ago, the end of the empire. There was apparently a 4.2 earthquake somewhere in Iran, and there are those who suspect that Iran has tested a nuclear weapon. And I suspect they have. And I suspect the message of that is, and it may have already leaked out, use nukes, we'll nuke Israel. So we'll nuke them. If a nuke flies in here, a nuke flies out. If you use nukes, it's it for Israel. It's game over. Use the nukes on us, we nuke them. And they can already destroy Israel in the using traditional weapons. And they have made this statement: Israel's fate is sealed. I think Trump's fate is sealed. I think the U.S. empire's fate is sealed. Sealed. What are you going to do at this point? And if you use nukes, that is economic destruction. You know, Witkoff gave the game away a while back. Witkoff said the day a nuke goes off anywhere in the world, all of the markets crash. And all of these billionaires, the Epstein class, the markets crash. They're going to get theirs. They attacked the wrong guy this time. And this is a strategic blunder of a proportion that is that you see every 500 years. Hundreds and hundreds of years, there'll be books written about the fall of the American empire. February 2026. That's when the fall of the U.S. empire began, and it didn't take long. This will be the most precipitous fall of any empire ever. And you know what I'm not going to do? There's Americans that are like, oh my gosh, how do we save this? Dude, this is an empire that is oppressing us. This is an empire that is impoverishing the working class. This is an empire that is starting wars all over the world. This is an empire that is raping and eating children. And I'm supposed to want to save it? I think what comes next might be better, because it damn sure can't be worse than a bunch of pedophile cannibals, ritualistic killing of children, organ harvesting, Zionist genocidal lunatics. You're going to ask me to try to save it? I don't think so. I didn't build it. I'm not destroying it. And first of all, if I wanted to save it, how could I do it? Even if I wanted to try to save it, I couldn't. Not that I want to. I'm watching. I am observing. I'm on a ship. Look, you're on a ship and it's heading towards the iceberg. You don't have the steering wheel in your hands. And what we did in Ukraine was this. We slammed into an iceberg. And we said, hey, Captain, yeah, Trump, yeah, what do you want to do? That didn't work. It was a bad idea. Let's back up and slam into the iceberg twice as hard this time. That's it. It's over. Game in. So that's it. You know, I'll end the way I started. Be careful what you pray for. You might just get it. And as the Iranians say, thank God for making my enemies fools. And I think it was Voltaire who says, I only have one prayer or one request from God, and that's to make my enemies absurd. And that was granted. Here we sit. The war's lost. The catastrophe, political, economic, military, is absolutely clear and obvious. All right, thanks everybody. Look, thanks to everybody, my Patreon and PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee people. If in fact you can contribute to the channel to keep it going, that's highly appreciated. There you got Cash App, and of course, for those who use snail mail, I have a PO box. PO Box 32. People send me all kinds of stuff. They write their manifesto. Literally, people write manifestos. I gotta write a manifesto. That is so cool. You gotta have a manifesto. If you're in a chat, write your damn manifesto, right? I don't know what a manifesto is, but write it, right? You got people literally send me, Garland, here's my manifesto. I'm like, How cool is that? And some of them are brilliant. People do send me donations. I've had people send me hats and ties and toys and all kinds of stuff and books and things like that. So for those of you who snail mail, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And if you can contribute to the channel, that's great. I appreciate it. If you can't, hey, so be it. Do me a favor. Share this on all your social media platforms. Thanks. Have a great day. I'm out. See you later. And I think I might have good old Matt Weinglass later. I've talked to him. I'm trying to get Matt Weinglass. Is he Matt? We love Matt. He's awesome. He is absolutely hilarious. So we'll talk to you later. I'm out.